You started with a dream, now you leading a team. Working it closing them deals, working with purpose. You don't walk around with a purse, but you working it, walking the heels. Beauty and brains, speaking and fighting for change. Intellectual and clever. You show the ladies everything a man can do. You can do better.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another session of the 5th annual Flippin' the Hills Badass Women in Real Estate Virtual Summit. And I'm so excited for the interviewee that we have here today. This is a friend, this is a sister, this is someone that I look up to in this industry. She is absolutely killing it. I admire her and her business and just everything that she embodies so much. So I'm excited to bring to you all this fabulous woman, Miss Sheena Baker.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for saying yes and being on. Any of you who are realtors, you guys are in for a special treat because this woman is killing it. She has built a very successful business, and I admire the way she has built it, how she maintains her client retention, and all of that good stuff. So we will go ahead and jump right in. Let's talk, tell the people about, just who you are, where you're from, what areas you serve, and even, just what was life like, just even growing up, getting into real estate.
Okay. All right. Well, like as Sheena said, my name is Sheena Baker. I'm a real estate broker with Compass. My office is located downtown Aurora, and which is maybe about 45 minutes outside of Chicago. I run now the Sheena Baker Group, where it's a total of 5 of us. I have an office manager, a client care coordinator, a junior broker who also acts as like a showing agent, and then I have a buyer specialist. So it is all 5 of us. I got into real estate 2006. I got my license, and that is because how I grew up. So if you ask me like, how did I grow up? My parents divorced, and I was like in the 7th grade, and from that year on, we moved every single year until my senior year of high school. So I had multiple schools, always new friends, all of that good stuff. So then I think by the time I graduated from high school, I just wanted to be stable. And then I ended up buying my first house at the age of 19. So that is how I kind of got into it. And because after that, everyone would be, oh, Sheena, why did you buy a house so young? Why did you buy? How do I buy? And I was referring them to my realtor that I use. And so then a couple years later, I'm like, I might as well just get my license and like, I'll just practice part-time. So I did that up until end of 2013. And then I went full-time after I went through a divorce. And so now I've been, as Sheena say, trying to kill it ever since and change up my business. My business has grown exponentially. So that's why I had to bring on a team, which I didn't start to build until like a year ago. So all that time, if people saw me hustling, it was all by myself. And I had like a transaction coordinator that would help me on the side. So that is a little bit about me.
Gotcha. Okay. So and what industry were you in before getting into, real estate?
I was in human resources, payroll management. So I paid a lot of, like I used to work for Midas Corporation. I worked for ADP for quite a long time, which is the company that pays people mostly. So like my payroll for my staff, we use ADP. But I paid the employees of ADP. So I handled the Chicago region where it was like 140,000 ADP employees at the time I was there. So I handled about 20,000 Chicago employees. And so I ran those payrolls, managed those payrolls, and then I helped them launch a call center division where if I was running your payroll, you don't want to talk to me, and I'm trying to do everything to balance numbers and all of that. So we launched a self-service group where you can call if you had a question about your paycheck, all this type of stuff. If you were a manager, you don't know how to enter an increase in the system, like all of that. It was like support for the staff and employees of ADP. So I was one of the few people that launched that. So I worked from home for 6 years while we did that. So, and then I decided after I divorced, I just want to do what I want to do. I want to be free. I want to build my own schedule. So I thought, so I'm like, I'm going to do, work for myself. And yeah, we can create our own schedules, but as you know, our clients kind of dictate a lot of that. So it's not as much freedom as we would like, but I do love it. I love what I do.
Right. And then while you were building that, because like you said, you started in '06, like part-time, and then you went full-time in 2013. So while you were part-time, you were still working at the other job?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And so what did that part-time business look like? Just I guess in terms of
Just a few deals a year, probably like maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 a year, like nothing like major. Because I couldn't put myself out there because I couldn't show during the day. It would have to be when I got off of work. So I didn't want to be a person where I can't commit 100% if I know I can't help you, or if I know you're not willing to, wait until I got off of work. I'm not even going to put myself out there. But back then in 2006, 8, like all of that, houses weren't flying off the shelf in a day.
right. So people can wait.
You could wait then. Now it's like if you say, "Hey, it's Monday, I can show you on Saturday." It's no way. It's no.
They got another realtor. Okay.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's totally different now. So I did do it part-time, but I still didn't do a ton of business. But I take that back. My first year, and then before the crash happened, oh, it was like crazy. So I had all this business, and the lady I remember I was working with, she's like, "Why don't you just quit your job?" And I was like, "I don't know if I'm ready to do that. This could be like a beginner's fluke." And I something happens. And then 2 years later, of course, the market crashes. So I was so glad I didn't leave my job because it wasn't a lot of people buying. It was more foreclosure, short sales, like that kind of stuff happening.
People were trying to sell and get out. People were scared.
Yeah, and I was new to the business, so I didn't understand a lot with the short sales and how to use those systems. They didn't have, like, now, if I did a short sale, I have a short sale attorney and his team handles all of that kind of stuff. But back then, agents were the ones doing everything with the short sales. And so, and I didn't have the capacity to do that. But yeah, it's totally different times.
Right. Yes, totally different times. So I'm so excited to get into the meat and potatoes, but I want to, gradually get people there. And so with that being said, so you, like you say, you started out part-time, and then you, quit your job and then went full-time. So going full-time in 2013, like what did those earlier years of, business look like? How were you generating business? What was your main source for generating leads and things like that? Like, were you, on social media like you are now? Like, there's a social media, this is the social media age, right? So what did those earlier years of being a full-time agent look like?
So I got on social media because I used to not be a person that cared about Facebook or any social media, because I'm like, I've always been like a private person on social media. Now, if you know me in person, I'm an open book. But usually I'm like, I don't know what to put on social media. Even sometimes now I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, my life is not that exciting. Like, why do people want to know? But I know you had to be on social media. So I got on Facebook. I created a Facebook business page. I'm thinking like, all this things you need to do. I remember hiring a graphic designer to make like a banner, and then like some social things where I could post like as templates, that kind of thing back then when I went full time. So, but I had to do that because all my family and friends were on social media. So that is all of my business, and it still is to this day. So my family, friends, and their referrals. So the network kind of started like that. So I just sent out an announcement to all of my people in my network. If it was on Facebook or if it was an email, I sent out an announcement to let them know that I was going full-time into real estate. Everybody was super supportive, thankfully. And then anybody that needed to buy was started to call me. So that is, or sell, but I still was just buyer heavy. I always, been buyer heavy until like the last 2 years. So that's what would happen. I would just start to post my just sold, closed, so people can remember that I'm full-time. I would have clients that were friends of mine reaching out about HR questions and payroll questions still for like a couple of years. And I'm like, I don't do that anymore. But then my coworkers are my clients too now. My old coworkers, I've sold their houses several times. So that's kind of how I just started with people that I knew, and I just marketed to them, but not like in a really weird kind of way, just as a, reminder, I'm doing this now. And everybody always knew how professional I was in my corporate career. So it was easy to support me, full-time in real estate. I think some agents, if you are new, and people say your family, your friends, they want to support you. It's how you present yourself to them. So if they see that you're a professional and you've always been a professional, like, yeah, you young, I was young, I have fun, I still have fun now, probably have more fun now, 40. Like, I'm, we turn up, we still normal
Listen,
people.
Sheena be living her best life, okay?
Right.
Best. Like, it's looking good doing
Thank
it.
you. But professionally, like if you ask me anything professional, I'm going to be about my business. So that helped I think that's why my family, like they won't go anywhere else. Like they know, like I'm about my business. My team is about their business. Like you have to handle it in a way where they're like, no, I only want to use my family and I know they're going to do a good job. They're not, because I'm family, going to like slight me. Like we work just hard for everybody.
Yeah.
But that was how I started getting the referrals, and it just kept borrowing. And then I know you're going to get into it, but we started to do things to help generate even more business within our sphere.
Yeah. And so early on, as a solo or individual agent, like you said, just figuring it out, but also like just doing everything yourself. What were some mistakes that you quickly realized, that you were making, as you were building your business?
Overcommitting yourself. So I did that a lot. I remember one time having 13 clients at once, and they were all hot. And I would be like thinking I could show all of them at the same time. And like, you can't, because then you're running late to this one and that one, and this one, it just spirals out of control. So really that was something I had to pull back quick to say, like, you're going to end up losing clients if you're running late, because that person before them was running late to run in. So then you start to see how you can kind of balance out your day more. It still happens, and real estate is no way to know if somebody gets into an accident or something on the way that might delay your day. But for the most part, having to manage my schedule of adding everything on the calendar so that I wouldn't miss something. If I told somebody I was going to call them back, in my head I thought I would, and you forget, then I now put it on my calendar. So like that kind of stuff I learned early on. If you don't use your calendar, you're going to forget about it. So I kind of reeled that in a lot. And then what I didn't learn till later was the taking my family for granted. Like I remember one Mother's Day, I had this person wanting like a $500,000 house, and they had to see it that day. And we were at a brunch, and my mom was like, no, it's fine. You can leave. Go ahead, honey. And I'm like, and I did. I left. We were probably almost halfway through and done. And I left that brunch to go show that house. That client never even ended up buying. And to this day, I'm like, I won't sacrifice my family anymore because of things like that. Like it shouldn't, my mother, you only get one. Like, so that is more important. So I did learn that too. Like you have to have a balance between your life and when to shut it off, because it's not fair to your family.
Girl, there's such a message there on a deeper level, because we are in the age of hustle and grind and hustle and grind, right? And I have been an advocate of it too, because my excuse is like, look, I'm young, I ain't got no kids, I ain't got no dog,
I have nothing.
I ain't got no husband, so let me just work as hard as I can right now, because when those things come, I want to sit down. But I also do enjoy my life and take time, like I said, for my friends and my family, and things like that. And I think you're right. Like when you're building a business, I feel like, sometimes we feel guilty about like, those things, right? Like, oh, well, I'm building a business, I have to be here, I have to do that. Like, that's one of the main reasons people get into entrepreneurship is for freedom.
Yes.
So where is the freedom when you're actually, feeling like you have to be here, you have to be there, right? Like as long as you show up with integrity in your business and you serve your clients, at the expectations, the level, the expectations in which you set, then, you still will have the freedom to,
because they know that Rashana, Sheena, always on when we need them to be. So they let them have a vacation, let them spend Mother's Day with their family. They know that you have to be human. Like I'm not turned on any other person when I'm with my clients. Who I am is who I am. So they understand that, that you do need some time with your family. They do understand. Those that don't, that's not my client. So I have to start believing that, like, God is going to send me clients that are for me, that understand our work ethic, that our team environment. The ones that don't understand that, they're not for me. And that's okay.
That's okay. So, in growing the business, what was your very first hire, and at what level were you at, like in, sales volume or, things like that?
Probably around in between 4 million, 4 to 5 million, somewhere around there is when I hired my friend who's now my office manager, but she was my transaction coordinator and part-time. So she had a full-time job, but she would always be like, I can help you with stuff. If you need help, just let me know. So I'm like, man, I need help with the paper. I've always been structured, organized in my life in the business world. But when now you're driving all day long, there's no way that I could be super organized. And at nighttime, that's all I would do, be able to catch up on the emails and that. So she was my first hire to handle the transactions, to make sure all the paperwork was accurate and accurately turned into the brokerage, making sure nothing missed the beat. I followed up with people that I needed to follow up on how the deal was going, making sure that the transaction, was smoothly made to the beginning to the end. So she was my very, very first hire. And I should have did that long before that. I would say now I tell people, if you can get help started sooner, you kind of can, it'll help you grow your business and start to set the processes early. But, being the only person and I'm like, I got this, and not wanting to like give up some money. It was, but now know you have to give up money to make more money.
Yes, ma'am.
So I learned that too, but she was my very, very first hire.
Yeah. And so what were some of the things, if any, did you have any growing pains with her,
Oh yeah. So, because I would be on the fly and I would like, do this. And she like, do what? Like,
right. She's like, wait a minute, you didn't even train me on how to do it.
No. And then when she became my full-time office manager, she's like, then I gave her access to see everything. So then she's like, holy shit, like, how are you doing all of this by yourself? I was like, I don't know. And so then it was like, okay, this is a lot. Like I think she didn't think it was this intense, but it was, because I had then grew to so many clients. So it was, the growing pains was I was in the car having to train her. So I'm like, I don't have time to sit in the office. I got 13 clients in and
you're like, we're going to these showings and you finna get this training in the car.
And she would do that too. She would get in the car, ride with me. Like, it was just not the way, like in my corporate career, I trained people a lot. So it's different. You sitting next to them, you have like a kind of agenda of things that you're going to go down in your checklist. Man, we have none of that. I was like, girl, so this came up. I need you to do this. And I'm like, so and I'm like, pull up this screen, click here. Like, that's just how we had to do it. And I think it was rough at first, because it was like, I'm not sure I'm getting it. I think that's what she thought. But now if you talk to her, she's like, oh man, I know a lot more. Like, I could go on vacation and things that I handle still. She's like, I know enough about it to handle it while you're away. So we got through it, but it was a little rocky.
So what would you have done differently, or, now, knowing what you know now, like next time around, or well, it'll be obviously different the next time around. Or I guess my question is, had you known what you know now, then how would you have done, that delegating and that training and things like that for your first hire?
I would have created the steps of what I did. I would have documented my own processes. So now that's what we have. Like, we have a SOP, standard operating procedures, and we continue to keep updating them. But I should have documented even just what I was doing so far up until that point, which is not as much as we do now. But that would have helped me have a guide for her, so that, it wasn't kind of like fly by the seat of my pants. So I really wish I would have organized what I did more to train her. So come up with a checklist, come up with the documentation that we have now. But it doesn't have to be perfect, but just some of the things you do, you need to put that in writing so somebody could follow you if something happened, to you. So that's what I wish I would have done. So
yeah. No, girl, I'm listening because I too, girl, I know. Now, I haven't done training in the car, but it has definitely been like, do this, do that, do this, do that. Or it's like, you want somebody to like be in your brain, and it's like, just do it, and it doesn't work.
They're not. They're like,
they're not. No. So then you have to extend grace. You have to be patient, because it's not, and I believe, and I love the fact that we're talking about this, because, it's a real thing, as a growing pain, as an entrepreneur. Like, there is not, Well, I would say probably there's more guidance now, but like I said, just jumping in and just figuring it out. Like you don't think from day one, document, right? You don't think from day one, like, okay, let me build this business now to be scaled or even to be sold, right? What have what have we started thinking about that right from the very beginning for our listeners? Like any business that you start, anything that you put, your effort into, what if you start packaging it from day one, to be sold at some point, right? How would you operate and how would you, put yourself out there then?
And I knew better because all of my I was in corporate America for 15 years. So I'm like, everything I did, I had to document. So I don't know why I just thought it would be, it's real estate. Like myself included. I'm like, it's easy, man. Like when you get into the intricacies of this business, it's not easy. We make it look easy on social media.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, document sooner. You can always go back and tweak it, but start to document sooner. And it'll just help you in that growing pains of training and being scalable too, of how to scale your business, how to take vacations. I wish somebody would have told me to set up yourself as put yourself on payroll earlier, make sure you get QuickBooks, because I was trying to do everything in Excel and this and that. It was a mess. So I'm like, I now, have I'm structured as a business within my business. Like that is even important. And to do it before you get busy, because you're trying to go back and figure out all those expenses and trying to pull out bank statements, all this kind of stuff. Like, no, set up your QuickBooks or whatever you're going to use, but set it up before you get super busy. So like when you become now top producer, your doors, like it just keeps churning, your phone keeps ringing and you think you're going to be able to touch this. And before you know it, the day is over. So
yeah, literally. So that, after you made the first hire, that transaction coordinator, how did your business grow? Like, was it immediately like, from 1 year to the next, was it
inch up, but like slowly? It would be, say it was 4 million, then it went to 5, then it went to 6. So it wasn't like drastic. My team that I have put in place now as of last year, that was probably the most drastic. Like I've had my first year, I want to say my first year in real estate. And this is why, well, I'll get to that. But I made, for example, $40,000 going full time that first year, which was not a lot of money because I came from a 6-figure job. So I had a friend that I would do some technical work behind the scenes at night so I still could make myself whole. Then that next year, I could no longer do that because I made like $120,000. So my business tripled. But then it starts to get stagnant around 200,000. Then you need help because you can't take on more clients without help. So now that's why then I asked her, instead of being part-time, can you go full-time and become my office manager? And so 2 years ago is when she became full-time. And so now she's the office manager that runs the entire operation. And some days she runs me. So hiring her full-time on as office manager. And then we hired in a client care coordinator last year. And then we brought in an agent that was showing. He was doing a lot of showing for me last year. I barely showed any homes, but I don't even know, doubled my business again.
Okay, wait. I'm like, this is getting too good. I gotta break it on down. Okay. So taking her from transaction coordinator to operations manager, what was the immediate need there? Because it was still just you and her, right? When you were like, hey, can you go from part-time to full-time? So what was that immediate need why you were like, hey, I need you to go, full-time? And what did you delegate more of?
I needed her to do more of the day-to-day besides just the transaction. So I needed her to be able to, and she also was licensed. She got licensed. So I needed her to be able to, when I get a call, somebody needs to set up a search or they're ready, they got approved from the lender. Next step is this. So I would need her to take the next step. Like, can you call them and you set up their profile, set up their search? I also needed somebody to schedule my showings. So I would be in the car and I couldn't schedule. So I'm like,
that's the first thing I delegated.
Yeah, the scheduling was huge for me because it was too hard to be with clients trying to schedule another client And I could potentially be like somewhere that I could have pushed this one into this spot because I'm already out here. But I was in the outside and busy. I wasn't knowing like who wants to see a house. I'll just wait till I get home and I'll show you tomorrow. Had I had people in place, I would have been, she could tell me, hey, Sheena, you're already out there. Can you show such and such? Add them, I'm gonna add them on the end. And so I'll be like, sure, because it makes sense. But
Exactly.
so I needed somebody from a higher level to be watching what I'm doing all day, to tell me where I'm going, what I need to do, responding to emails that I couldn't get to until the end of the day because I was in my car all day. So immediately was the email, so she could be on all the emails. It was the scheduling. It was the calling of clients. It was calling clients back when I couldn't because I was with the client, but they had a question. And if she, if something she didn't know at that time, she could wait. But a lot of stuff she could just answer until I got, free again.
Right.
So those were the very first things I delegated.
Got it. Okay. Then the next hire was the client care. So what made you, feel like the need for that hire, even, essentially?
So with my office or, office manager or operations manager, I started needing her even more for things that I need to turn over that's only in my head. So, but the day-to-day of all the leads that we generate, somebody needs to be calling them, making sure that they're good. Did you talk to the lender? How's that going? How's your search going? Do you need us to make any changes to your search? Or looking for them too. Like at the time, like I would tell, they still do it now. If they're not looking through their searches, sometimes tell them, hey, did you miss this house? Like, I think this one will be great for you. So they call and they'll say, hey, I'm just calling. They do a weekly check-in. If a client doesn't reach out to us first, we weekly call them and say, hey, just checking in. If you need us to make any changes, are you good? Any questions? So I soon found out we needed a person to do that. So we wouldn't lose the leads.
The retention.
So, yeah. Yep. So that is what she does. And then she also specializes in things we can do to send out. So we send out a lot of anniversary cards, birthday cards. If we see somebody on social media, somebody passed away, we'll send that out. We send referrals. If you refer me somebody, you get a Starbucks card. Like she's in charge of making sure all the stuff for retention happens. We do pop buys. We'll pop by gifts we pick 20 clients a month and we pop by with different gifts and a different cute saying. So she does all of that. So anything client retention and client touch, and she's super friendly. Everybody loves her. She was perfect for that role. And then Toya, which is my operations manager, they know how to do each other's role in that sense. So that was great. So if Tiana's off, Toya can jump in, vice versa. So that kind of helped, and it helped Toya have a backup. Because if it was just me and Toya, like, I'm like, you can't go nowhere because I need you.
Right. You can't never take a vacation.
Yeah, now I'm telling her she can't take a vacation. So now with having Tiana, they can both take vacations or breaks or whatever, and they can support each other, and also doesn't have to fall back on me. So I'm at a point in my life with my business. I'm like, I can pay staff that can help grow the business too, and I can think strategically. So the more I told them that, I said, if you guys get me out the car, because I was driving around so much, I'm like, I can think more to generate more business for us, which is what is the result of what happened in 2021 with those numbers. Because I'm like, I wasn't in my car, and I made probably the biggest year of the biggest year of my career, and I barely showed houses. So
in a pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. And so what was that number for
last year? 25.5 mil.
Love it. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it. Okay, cool. So we got the operations so we got the TC turned operations manager, then we got the client care and, like you said, the client touch. And then, like you said, I love how you tasked your staff with like, hey, if y'all can get me out this car, then, we can make it work. Yeah. So then what happened next?
So then when I gave them that challenge, we had a list of agents that they would call on, like, I would pay them to show for me. So they would set up like this person probably is Southside, or this person is this place. And they would start to ask agents to show. Then we had one agent in particular that he was newer to the business and just made himself completely available. and it felt like for us. So he never said no. So we would start sending him a lot of them. And he was just like, oh, I'll go
Bam,
anywhere.
bam, bam.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, who is it? Like, I'm letting them handle it, so I'm not in it. So then I'm like, wait a minute. Now I'm like, okay, whoever he is, he hustling. And then the feedback, people will be like, oh, he was so nice. And he's younger, but he's so nice. And I'm like, and we're getting good feedback. So then they were like, yeah, Sheena, you need to have him come in and sit down with him. He wasn't working with our like brokerage at the time. So we sat down with them, and then he was the next hire. So I'm like, well, you come on to the team because it makes no sense. You working with us feels like exclusively anyway. So he's a junior broker, but he also is like a showing agent because he still shows a lot of the clients and things like that. So he was the fourth, yeah, no, yeah, third hire. He was the third hire, yeah.
So he's your junior broker / showing agent.
Yes. So he'll go put lock boxes on, take them off, booties, help them if they need help with pop buys. He's marketing ideas. He kind of like where we need him, he'll come like fit, he'll lend his hand kind of to anything. But mainly when it starts to get busy, he's out in the field.
Love it. Okay. And then so he doesn't focus on like listings at all, or like what happens if a listing comes in?
Yeah, so I'm fine. If you want to take your own listing, I'm totally fine with that. I'm not the team like where I have to take, it has to be under me. Like, no, I'm cool with it. You can say that's your listing. I don't even have to be listed as co-listed. I will help you though, if you need help with that listing and how to manage your own business. So he's still new to the business. So he's not in the listing mode. He's doing like trying to do more like renters, buyers, that kind of thing to get his feet wet.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure he's gonna get there under us. Like you're gonna learn a lot. So you'll get, he'll get there. But right now he's more focused on his own business if he getting in those leads. And then we're training him so he can start to take a lead. So if I give you the client from beginning to end, I want to make sure you understand how to work with and service that client completely, negotiate the contracts. All of that kind of stuff is what we're training him to do. Then we'll start to give him actual leads from the team as well. So right now we're kind of training him, developing, and he's showing. And then if he has his own clients, we're helping him with those too.
Yeah, good stuff. I love it. And I love hearing like the natural just progression, like there's a progression and growth out of need. But I'm also huge on manifesting, right? And believing that everything that you need will come to you, right when you need it, right when you're ready. And like you said, you were just like, hey, can you show? And the next thing you know, you may not have been looking for, like I said, a junior agent, but he just kind of presented himself to be available and to be a fit and to be, be all of these things that you necessarily didn't know you were ready for or were looking for or needed, but it's like, bam, here it is.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. But you're right. I needed it and didn't know I needed it. And so I'm glad it happened that way because I am like, I've always thought I needed help eventually, but most agents were scared to like, who is going to help us? Like, who do we trust with our business? This is my baby, So it's nice to kind of see, he showed himself to us. So we kind of could see his work ethic in that. And then it's kind of easier where you can say, okay, I see how he works. Let me bring him on.
And then initially you were just doing like a pay per showing basically.
Yep.
And you guys still like kind of have that set up?
So no, now I pay him like a stipend instead of like a weekly, per door thing. So because it's not like said, we're not busy with showings that week. He still can help us with other things. So like the stipend covers like the gamut of everything, like whatever you can help with that month. It might not be as many showings this month as last month. You might have helped now do marketing stuff for us or what's those kind of things. So that's kind of where we transition to for now. And then a split when it's like actual client, it'll happen. The split still is there.
And then your client care, I actually meant to ask you this. So is that person part-time or full-time?
Part-time.
Okay, got it. All right. So then there was another hire, right? Okay. So tell us about that.
So my last hire was a full-on buyer specialist. So she is strictly for our the Sheena Baker Group buyers. So she can still have her own clients and her own listings or buyers as well. But when we assign a client to her, it's a buyer. So, and she was actually another person that was helping me, and like, she wouldn't even let me pay her. She was like, girl, just let me help you. I know you're swamped. And so we had become friends. And then she was like, I know you swamped, just let me help you out. And I was like, okay. So she would help us, periodically. And then she started offering more. And so then she's like, I know you're building your team out. Don't rule me out. Like, let's talk. So I'm like, okay. So we talked about it. Just, I didn't think she would want to be on the team at all. And when we talked about it, it was like, it made sense. And so then she joined the team. And so we get so many buyers. Sometimes of course, we can't give everybody to her, or I don't want her to quit. So I still keep some. And then my junior broker, he will show them, and they're still under me. I'm just not showing the home. And then as much as we can put on her, we give her those buyers, and she can take them from beginning to end. So there's showings, my team still sets up the searches for everybody because we have a process on that. But she can tweak their searches. She's taking them out showing. She's looking for them to find them something off market. She's negotiating the deals, like all of that stuff. So attending the inspections, like all of that, she takes that buyer from beginning to end.
So what was the difference, like, with her, you saying like, hey, okay, you are equipped to handle a buyer, from beginning to end, versus like the junior agent? Like, is it just she's been I guess licensed longer, or like she has more experience than him? Because it sounds like both of them were new.
No, so she had her license for 4 years.
Oh, okay.
It was not brand new. And so she had done probably about 4 million. So she had more, she was more seasoned. So I seen her take clients from beginning to end.
Got it.
So, and she, worked for a university for years in her career. So she also had a past corporate structure. So I knew that the way that we're structured over here, it'll make sense. So that is kind of why, I can let her go from beginning to end, because I know that she had been doing it for years, for a couple of years at that point.
I love it. Good stuff. Okay. And then you mentioned like your sales volume, getting to 25 million, as an individual agent. So how many houses was that? How many families was that?
That was 91 deals last year. And we brought the buyer specialist on at the end of the year. So out of the 91, she closed 4 of those. So that's why I'm like, it's very important, because at this point now, when you start to see numbers, it should start to increase, but it's going to be really the team numbers. So this last year in 2021 was really my individual, with the help of the showings and all of that kind of stuff, and showing agents and that, but that was still the volume that I'm strictly generating. So 91 transactions. So, and I think the year before that, we were probably around 30 transactions. So so it was a lot. But I could take on more if I'm not the person showing them. And we got 7 people that are open to showing. Of course, you can take on more business. So when I tell people you got to spend money to make money, I had to pay a lot of agents to show. But if I ended up paying somebody clear for $1,000 even for a client, all the showings that they did, and I ended up making 10, it was worth it.
Right.
So,
right.
And I bought back my time. So that's the thing as well.
And then how is that expectation set, or like, what's that conversation that you're having with your clients, where it's like, okay, you may be out, with this person or that person, and it's not me, right? Like, are you having disappointing clients? Are you having a trouble with, retention? Are you, what's that like? Is the feedback like, well, this person really isn't you, or
I've got a few of those. For the most part, that's why I started to the Sheena Baker Group. And like, really, if I'm posting, sometimes I'll post about the team or like that, so people can understand that it's a team. Social wise, if you're watching me on social media, it is a team behind. But when they call for that initial consult, I'm talking about it right then and there, so that there's no confusion, and that they're cool with that. Usually they love it, because if you sometimes work as a solo agent, if I'm booked for the day, I can't get you out until tomorrow. But if that house is gone, you lose out. So I explain it as you have 5 of us that are here to help. I may not show you the homes, but I'm on every single text, I'm on every single email. You can call me anytime. You just might not have me showing you the house. They're okay with that. So far, they've been okay with that. What I learned from a person that does way more business than me, probably like 100 mil a year, her team, they're like, I think one year, maybe it was 2020 or 2019, they sold the most in the MLS, period. Like her team was killing it. And I asked her the same question, like, how did you go from that? They didn't want you. And she said, as long as your people that are on your team are knowledgeable, they are responsive, they are friendly as well as you, they don't care that it's not you. They care that they're getting somebody to answer the phone. They care that they get their answers to their questions. It doesn't have to be you that answers it. So they're like, if you go to the doctor, you see the doctor for a minute, who you dealing with? The staff I'm like, that's kind of true. That's kind of true. So we kind of make sure we run.
That's so true, actually. Yeah. The doctor come in, be hey, how you doing? Last time I was at the dentist, literally, I got my cleaning done by, the hygienist, the specialist, and then the doctor literally came in and just look. I was like, oh, your teeth look good. All right, have a good day. Like,
and we still keep going back because we like the hygienist. We like the doctor, but the staff makes, you come in, hey, Roshana, like they make you feel like you're at home. So like and that's what anybody that come on the team, I'm like, that's the environment or culture that I built for myself. Like, if you're going to work with me, you're going to feel like you family, even if we don't know each other. So like that, we're going to get to know each other. So my team we're all the same way. Like, we love people, like that has to be a vibe. So we just had one client close. I met her maybe in 2014 at a housewarming for a client. And then she kept my information from 2014 till now. I haven't seen her. I talked to her, ended up handing her over to my buyer specialist. Everything was smooth. She sent me a text and she said, I just want you to know your entire team is a whole vibe. I loved working with y'all. She never had to see me through the whole transaction. So I'm like, we have to create and cultivate the vibe where they cool with it if it's not just me. You're still getting me because everything they do are my practices, are my templates, are the way I would service you as if it was me. So it's the same thing, it's just not my face. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So so far they're okay.
Absolutely. And so I hope you all are enjoying this interview. I'm sure you all are taking notes, being a solo or an individual agent, and then, slowly building out a team and what that looks like. A lot of people, a lot of realtors are familiar with the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. They also call it the Real Estate Bible. And it talks about these steps right in there in regards to building out a team and, what your first hires are and things like that. And I'm so glad that you talked about like building out this system right before you're just bringing on agents, right? Because I actually did that. And well, no, my first hire was definitely not an agent. It was my transaction coordinator, and my business also tripled, right? But I got advice from someone who was running a very successful team. And I asked her, what would be your advice? And she literally said, build the system, before you hire the people, build the system. She was like, because your team is going to want to show up and they're going to want to, really focus on like their own business. Right. Like, and then as team leaders, like we, coach and train and, help them out, right, and mentor and guide them in being successful in their business, which does, ultimately fall back to the overall team numbers. However, like you said, you are nothing without that foundation, without those standard operating procedures, so literally right now, you guys are listening, if you do not have standard operating procedures for your business, take this as a sign to do it and document it and literally start with, okay, writing a contract. What are the steps to writing a contract? Scheduling a showing.
Client intake, like how do you intake a client? Like everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Man, this interview has been everything. Because again, like I said, I admire Sheena so much for just what she's built. I mean, 100 houses a year, basically by yourself, is definitely phenomenal. And so, like you say, you have your core team now, right? Like it's five of you. But you still will utilize other showing agents, basically similar to the model that you guys already had.
If we need it, I think at this point we don't. So it's enough of us that we don't need it now. So and all five of us are licensed. So even the client care coordinator, a couple weeks ago, I posted she got her license, so she passed too. So all of us are now licensed. So if any of us have to jump in there and help, we can. So I think that we're okay. But I still keep the relationships with everybody that I know. So if we needed help for some reason or something like that, I would still reach out. I would still pay another agent to help us if we needed to get help.
Yeah. And now that you're out of the car and more into, the CEO role where you can sit and think and create, what is your day-to-day looking like?
So my day-to-day is spent a lot on calls. So I still do a lot of client intake for now. They do some, and then I kind of can feel who needs to talk to me first. So I still do a lot of the initial calls when they're calling in, like they're so excited. They've been following me on Instagram or something like that, and they want to work with me, or they'll even say like, I want to work with you on your team, because they know that's how we operate. So I'll talk to them a lot. I'm also the person now checking in with them. So we need to talk what's going on for today. Do you guys need anything? Kind of putting out fires, not like fires, but just like, hey, Sheena, I'm waiting for your approval on this. So I'm the one approving a lot of stuff that's happening right now. So like today I'm approving before the newsletter goes out. I want to see it before we do the next event, the budget and all of that for that. I want to see that, how y'all got it set up, give my feedback on that. So I give a lot of feedback all day on things that they are creating, or I've given them to create. Like I'll say, hey, I want to do this. I got this idea, and I push it off to them. Then they'll come back to me and say, all right, we got it down. Let's give us your blessing so we can do it. So I spend a lot of my time doing that, and then thinking of things to help generate more business, retain our business, keep it fun for the clients. Thinking of the structure, because we have some other stuff coming. Like I have some luxury apartments that we are going to be listing in the summer. Wow. So that's a new deal that I got. So how we're going to do that, we're going to end up needing, like I just got the signage put out there, but we're going to need somebody sitting over there when we have a model, like those type of things I have to think about. I work with a builder. We do custom builds. So I'm thinking of strategically like that. So we have a meeting with him this week on how we're going to go about further marketing ourselves together. So I'm thinking of the bigger picture.
Yes.
And they're helping me, I guess the train is not going without them. So I'm like, they're helping me. I have the idea, or they have the idea, and together we all are kind of just working together to make it happen.
Yeah, I love it so much. And if you guys are not following Sheena Baker on social media, make sure that you are. Like you mentioned, just all of the things that you're doing now, like, so from, like you said, in the construction and working with the developer now and the builder and things like that, it makes me go back to think of, like you said, when you first started, you were a part-time agent, right? And now fast forward, you have built and are running this empire that, can ultimately, still run like without you, right? Like if you need to take a break, if you need to do this or need to do that, if you need to go on vacation, if anything happens, right? And I think ultimately, like, that is the level that you want to get to, in your business, especially while you're still working in the business. But take enough time to work on the business so you don't have to be in the business as much. Exactly. So I love that so much. So as we are coming to a close, are there any just final words, final thoughts for new agents that are looking to get into the business, or agents who are at a period to where, like, they need to pivot, right? They need to pivot. They need to make a shift, make a change, make a transition, make a hire, right? Whatever that may be.
For the new agents, I would definitely say you have to educate yourself. I still have to educate myself because I think real estate changes all the time. But the educating meaning, go to, if your association is having classes or programs that they put on, because all of them, if you look at their events calendar, they always do. If you're newer, you usually should have way more time than like the top producers. So go, and you will see top producers will still show up because now we have time. So, but as a new agent, I went to as much stuff that I could go to. I met so many agents by doing that also that were way more seasoned than I was. And because I kept showing up, they were so willing to, what do you need, Sheena? Do you have a question? And I'm like, I need to hire my first person, but I don't know how to do it. I would ask those who have done it before me, how did they do it and all of that? And they would share it with me, and you meet them by showing up. So go to association events. If there's other groups that you want to be a part of, there's in our area, Women's Council of Realtors, and there's different networks all over. There's all different things. The Realtors, here, there's all types of organizations that you can join. In my area, we have African American Chamber of Commerce. I'm a part of that. A lot of the members know me. So you have to get yourself outside and seen to get business. And that goes, period. I still do that now. So I tell my team, I'm like, pimp me out. Like, I love being out around people. Like, if you need me to go somewhere and like mingle and meet, it's not to just, hey, my name is Sheena, I have a business card, I want you to use me if you need to buy it. Just become a network of people you know. So if I know you do this, I'm going to send somebody your way, even if you don't send me business. That gets the relationship going, and then they'll be like, man, Sheena sent me somebody for my business that is not real estate related. Let me think of who I can send to her. So it just starts to happen naturally like that. The seasoned agents, if they're trying to pivot in that first hire, you have to give yourself some tough love and just do it. The more you keep thinking about it, you're not going to do it. I remember a friend of mine, that one that does a lot of business with her team. She was like, I'm not meeting with you anymore until you have hired an assistant or something full time. And she's like, seriously, like, you doing enough business, you need help. And so I just had to somebody had to challenge me to just cut it off, Sheena, you have to get the help. So I would say start to see who's in your sphere or other agents that you might work well with that are like junior or something like that, that you can kind of help each other. Somebody that you would trust with your business. And if you need to start them off part-time, do that. I know people that use virtual assistants. I've never done that, so I don't know how that works, but that's the thing as well. Like, if, get you a transaction coordinator at least. So to get you started. And a lot of those, they're paid per deal once the deal closes. So you're not even paying that up front. So you're not putting out as much of an expense up front. So I would say that's my advice to the ones that are trying to pivot.
Yeah, good stuff. All righty. So tell the people where they can find you, follow you, support what you got going on, and get even more inspired by you, because they're going to be following you and watching all them hundreds of homes that you selling.
I know. So on Instagram, I am Sheena Sales. So it's SheenaSells. And then we also have Sheena Baker Group on Instagram. That's a newer page. And then on Facebook, it's the Sheena Baker Group. So you can find me at all three places. I do have other social media, but I'm not up on using them as much as I should. Like Twitter, you're good on Twitter.
Girl,
so
I'm not like once every 2 weeks or something. It'd be
that's more than me. So but no, I would like to get more on other platforms, but those are the ones I'm trying to get my groove in now, especially as a team. So that's where you can find me.
Good stuff. I love it. Well, thank you so much for just being on here, sharing your experience, sharing what has worked, what hasn't worked, the lessons, literally, like you said, going from a first-time home buyer, right, at 19 to now running a successful group, of individuals at a top brokerage. I'm so excited for you and your success. And I just, like I said, Sheena to me is just like a superwoman. I'm like, girl, how are you doing it all? But she does it. And then now, to see you, like how you've grown even more and growing the team and running it as a business. I mean, I'm just in awe. So Thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for your time. And
Or anything for you, because I'm equally as inspired by you. And I tell her that because, not that we years and years apart, but I am older. And I just think that what you're doing so young, how you've taken social media and, made that's something I need to try to do. But just everything you do and like just teaching folks, you already have groups where you teach and you teach investors and like things like that, that us that are the older realtors, we need to do more of. You've been doing it. And I think that is awesome. And you give us the inspiration, like, okay, we can do this too. So I'm patting you on the back as well, sis.
oh, thanks, sis. Love you.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Yes.
All right. So before we get our teary eyed, so we are gonna hop off of here, but I hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed and we'll see you next time.
Bye.